Welcome to the studio today at Waycross Community Media. Today we have with us Forest Park Environmental Program Manager, Wright Gwynn, and we also have Energy Alliance's Energy Consultant, Dan Dieters, because we are going to catch up on the latest updates happening with the Forest Park Aggregation Program. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So, Wright, why don't we start with you? What's been going on with the aggregation program in Forest Park?
We have been moving and grooving. I mean, we have gone out to bid. We passed everything in November by the residents' vote. And with that, we were certified as an aggregator for the residents. And we turned in all the paperwork thanks to Energy Alliance. They got all the paperwork. We sent it to the state, so everything's done there. Then Energy Alliance Incorporated sent our bid request out to different energy companies. We have received them. We've got some really great rates, electrical rates. And so we presented them to the city council about 2 or 3 weeks ago. They accepted them. So we signed a contract with Constellation New Energy. And so that's all set. And so where we are right now, we're going to be putting together a letter that will go out to the residents. And they'll have a chance to read all the information. It will provide rates, what the electrical rates are, how to opt out if they would wish to opt out, all that information. And then hopefully we'll start, would you say, maybe implement it beginning in May?
It will start rolling in May, as soon as the opt-out period is finished. Then if your read would have been after that opt-out period ends, you'll roll on for the next.
Now, when you say read,
month.
You're talking about the
when they come
meter.
and read your meter, or they do that remotely now. But when your scheduled read date occurs, then after that, you'll roll on to the program.
So we're set. We've got some great rates. We're really interested to tell you all about them, and things are moving along really well. Really smoothly.
So for anyone who has not been keeping up, we've talked about Forest Park energy aggregation in some previous programs, but if you have missed those programs, just to recap a little bit, what this means, aggregation is kind of like getting the Costco group buy rates for your gas and electric. It's optional. You don't have to take advantage of this rate, but it is an option that the town, like you said, it went on the ballot to see if we were allowed to pursue this in Forest Park, and now we've gone forward with the approval and the rates have been chosen. But that's what that means. Forest Park residents will be able to, come May, will be able to take advantage of group buy rates, essentially. Is that a good way, Dan, to explain that?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Just to make a point, it's electric only at this time.
Okay.
The council has not passed through the gas portion of this. We're going through that right now to try to get pricing, but as far as the electric aggregation goes, the letters will go out sometime in the next week, and then the opt-out period will start, and folks can make a choice whether they want to be a part of the program or not.
And one reason you wait for different times is you are waiting, as the energy consultant, for there to be good rates to get the city involved in, rather than just saying, okay, we've got it approved, let's go.
Correct. I mean, but we kind of push the electric with the city because we want to get it in before the summer cooling season, because that's when electric prices are higher.
Absolutely. So that's good to know. If we're wondering why is it important for us to look at electric aggregation right now, it's air conditioning. Air conditioning is a big reason why we're looking at electric aggregation first, because that's coming soon. And we've got a little more time before we need to really think about gas aggregation and heating season. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about then the actual energy rates received. You had bids and all of this process going on. How many companies were submitting for that?
The 4 companies submitted bids of different varieties between 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. Some bid some of those terms, some did not bid some of those terms, some did not bid any renewable energy, some just bid regular energy. And at the end of the day, of all the bids, City of Forest Park, upon the recommendation of Energy Alliances, chose Constellation New Energy as the electric supplier.
Because that's really important to know, because I think some residents will want to know, did you look at everybody? Did you look at all the things? And you're not just looking at rates, you're looking at terms. Are things going to change? Can they opt out? Can they change their mind? All of these are relevant. And the reason I mention that is that you get letters in the mail and they have numbers on them. And unless they know how to read all that, and I'm sure we'll look at that in a little more depth in a minute, they might not realize that, yes, we did look at those companies and we ruled them out for various reasons. And Constellation was the one that had the best opportunity for Forest Park.
Correct. And you would think that it's very expensive to run one of these programs for these suppliers. So it's not like you're going to get 40 bids in. They have to have the ability to buy this electricity, first of all, and the futures. And then they have to be able to complete the contract. They have to be in a good enough standing credit-wise and things like that to make sure that we don't just start some program and then the residents of Forest Park are left out in the cold because this company couldn't complete the contract. So the companies that bid all were companies that could do that, and you just don't want somebody in that's brand new doing this stuff for the residents.
And that's really important. We have been getting, and more so recently than in the past, solicitation letters from other aggregation companies. And they look good, initial offers, they say they're going to do this and the variable rates. And so you're inclined to kind of gravitate towards these lower prices that are on this sheet of paper. But we don't really have any control over these companies. And the city thought it would be great if we had an energy expert. And so we did go out and talk to a couple different companies, and we did choose Energy Alliances Incorporated to represent us in these bids so that we would get good bids, good companies, and a kind of a protection for our residents so that we will know what the contracts are, how they can get in and get out, and all that kind of stuff, and there won't be anything unforeseen in the contract. And so I think they have done a great job. Energy Alliances have done a great job. They've gotten us some really good rates, and I feel very comfortable in the 36-month contract that the City Council has chosen to do.
That's important to note because Energy Alliances was selected because of their extensive experiences.
Right.
And Dan, you said that Energy Alliances has participated in 71
Nearly.
different aggregations in different towns.
Yeah, we treat each aggregation differently. So the Forest Park Gas and the Forest Park Electric are two different aggregations. So we're in the high 60s, headed for 70, and plus beyond. The one thing that Wright said before that is really important to understand is that Energy Alliances doesn't work for any of these suppliers that made these bids. They work for the city and they work for the residents. And what we do is we make sure the terms and conditions are correct so that the residents are protected from the kinds of things you see in the offers you get in the mail or over the phone. And there's not going to be any gotchas on this. You know, at the end of the day, there's no automatic renewal. There's no rate change. There's the ability to come and go as you please in the program. So if you get out of the program initially, you can always come back at the same rate that the initial offer was. So if you got out of the program and then think to yourself 6 months, man, I should have gotten into that thing, you can come on back. It's not an issue. So Energy Alliances kind of controls that section for the city and for its residents with the suppliers to make sure those terms and conditions are all in there.
That's important because I know a lot of folks have wondered, can I get out? Do I have to do this? And of course the answer is no, they do not have to do this. But we're hearing about a lot of reasons that it's a good idea to do this. And we definitely want to let people know about that so they can take advantage of it. And also I want to bring up, you mentioned that people were bidding on two kinds of ways to supply the electricity, and that was renewables and non-renewables. There are two options. They're both a savings from Duke, but you can decide to pick one that's more environmentally responsible if you want to, and that was really important to you.
It was to me, since I'm the environmental program manager. We kind of took a template from Oxford, the city of Oxford, just a little north of us. They had an option plan where there would be one type of energy source as a default that everybody would be into, but if you didn't like that, you could make a phone call and say, no, I would like to be in this type of energy resource. And so Forest Park did the exact same thing. So the renewables, which is wind, is our default energy source. Like you said, which is very important, both of these energy sources, you will save money. And they're very, very close in the rates. So the default is renewables, which is wind. And then if you want to use the more traditional source of energy, the browned energy is what they call them, that's coal or natural gas, then you can make a phone call saying, I would like to be switched over there, and that's all you would have to do.
So when you pick the aggregation as your source, not only are you going to go from the Duke rate to the aggregation rate, so you're already getting a savings, but you're also going to, by default, be using renewable energy sources.
Correct.
So that's kind of exciting. Dan, can you tell us how this contract that the City of Forest Park, the council approved, how that compares to what we see from Duke Energy directly?
Well, it's a 3-year contract, as we said before, and Duke Energy bills you whatever the standard rate is that they're basically billing everyone. If you want to talk about actual numbers, the Duke Utility, I think the annual price to compare is around 5.45 cents per kilowatt hour for the average Forest Park resident. Now that's an annual, it's not an estimation, but that's an average, an annual usage for Forest Park residents. So our rate is significantly less than that for both renewable and for the brown energy.
Wright has made for us a chart with the energy aggregation plan, the comparison savings, and so we can see now those numbers that you were just telling us, and we can see that's an average, like you said. We won't necessarily see that same exact number every single month, but that's what we're going to see as an average overall.
On your price to compare on your bill, when you look at price to compare, that price changes every month. So you have to be careful saying, oh, this is this discount we're getting for the rest of the year, because in the summertime it'll be greater, but in the wintertime it'll be smaller. So, but hopefully a discount nonetheless.
So, right, you actually brought us samples of bills so we can take a look at that. So we can take a look at how does a resident look at their own bill.
Correct.
And figure out where they're going to see savings. So talk about that a little bit. What are we going to see on this one, on this sample? This is the sample bill we're looking at on the screen.
Right.
What kind of things can we expect to look for on our own
Now
bills?
this is a Duke Energy bill. This is my bill, but I took all my personal information off of it. So if you look on the left page, left-hand page, at the very top, you will see Duke Energy. You'll see a red circle, and in that circle you'll see Duke Energy. If you just had Duke Energy, like a lot of people do now, that would be the only energy company there. But now that we have Constellation as our energy supplier, now you've got 2 companies that will be on this bill. You just make one payment, but it's just letting you know that Duke is going to provide you with the infrastructure, the wires and the cables and the poles and things like that. But Constellation will supply you with the energy that is going to come to your house. Okay, the second circle on the left, on that left-hand side, circles the amount of kilowatt hours I used for that month. As you will see, 676 kilowatt hours is what I use. Now, the average household, from what I've read anyway, is anywhere from 1,000 kilowatts to 1,200 kilowatt hours a month. Okay, so you can see I'm a little underneath that. I don't turn on a lot of lights. I live by myself. So I don't have kids or whatever watching whatever or playing with whatever device. I don't have computers all over the place. I don't have 3 or 4 TV sets going on. I don't have electric heat and all that kind of. So it's really, I don't use that much. So that's the kilowatt hours. So on the right side, this is where you start getting to compare things. On the right-hand side of your bill, you will see at the very top, price to compare. Duke Energy is 0.0545. And like Dan said, that's the average over the whole month. Okay, and it will change a little bit each month, but that's about what Duke says you need to compare to see if you're getting a better rate. And if you look down at the very bottom on the right-hand side where it says electric supplier, that's Constellation. and you will see that their amount for renewables, now this is because it's the default that the city has chosen, is 0.0457 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you subtract from the list to compare with what Constellation says, you will see a savings of 0.0089 cents per kilowatt hour, which doesn't sound like much. It doesn't. But when you multiply it by the number of kilowatt hours that you use every month, then it starts adding up. And we did the math, and if I was with Constellation, if I lived in Forest Park and this was my bill, I would save a little over $6 just doing nothing other than being part of the aggregation program.
And I think that what's really nice to know about this is there's a couple things. If you're looking at this bill on the screen and you're thinking, what are you doing? I don't need this to be that technical. You don't need to know this. This is not the most important part of this, but I know a lot of us want to know, where are the numbers?
How do I calculate my savings if I do go with this?
So if you're the person that says, I want to look at all this, I want to know the details, what is this about me? I don't want to see a sample bill. Wright is showing you, here's a bill, look for these numbers on yours. Duke tells you every month what the price to compare is, and then you can look every month at what Constellation is charging. And when you look at cents, you think, gosh, that's such a tiny little thing. But cents times kilowatt hours used during the month is what really adds up. And over the year, it really adds up. And during air conditioning season, it really adds up. So that's why it matters. That's why it's nice to know that those things are there. There is a section on your bill that shows you your annual readings each month across the year.
That's the next page over, right? Mm-hmm.
So that's a nice place to look if you want to see
your total amount of kilowatt hours in a year, and then multiply it by your savings. You'll see how much you save in a year.
This time of year, you might think, it's not that much, but then go ahead and scan yourself and look what kind of numbers you see in July and August. And then think, I think I might want to get on that aggregation.
It's like Dan says, if you find a $100 bill on the sidewalk, would you walk by it? No, you'd pick it up. Well, that's about like what aggregation is. You're not really doing anything, but these are just cheaper rates, and so you'll have a savings, a monthly savings, and it all depends on how much electricity you use will determine how much savings you have each month.
So a lot of this is stuff we've talked about a little bit before, but to catch up and to see what's new is the letter is going out. People can expect to actually start getting something in their mailbox. So before we start talking about the letter, I want to say that because so many companies are calling, and they like to drop the name Duke because you think you'll recognize that. They like to say things that make you think. The aggregation is not going to call you at all. So if you get a phone call, it's not the aggregation, and it's not the city, and you can very politely not talk to them anymore if you don't want to.
It's also not Duke.
And it's not Duke, yes.
Definitely not Duke. They'll say, I want to talk to you about your Duke bill. We need to talk about you need to discuss your Duke rate. We think you're getting billed incorrectly, things like that. All those scams, you got to be really, really careful. Duke will never call you, ever. No one from the aggregation program will ever call you unless you're asked to be called. The other thing that I need to point out when you look at the bill, when Constellation will appear on your bill, it's not adding to your bill, it's replacing the Duke generation charge. So very important, don't think you're being double billed, you're not. Do not listen to social media. Folks that are on Facebook or on Neighborhood or whatever those sites are, the numbers are readily available. You can pick up the phone and talk to Wright or talk to me, and I can tell you exactly what's going on with your bill, whether the program is working for you, things like that. And, did you get into the program? Some people think they got into the program and never got into the program. Some people, and the other thing I will tell you, if you are with a program right now, you are not going to get one of these letters. So if you want to get into the program, you have to reach out to us.
Actually, that relates to a lot of the stuff that we see in our social media, but very much part of this. Make sure you're getting your information from trusted sources. Trusted sources are the very people that are in charge of this, which is the City of Forest Park and Energy Alliances, and those are your trusted sources.
Right, and it's interesting that we're talking about this because I got a call from an ex-council member. And he says, right, you might want to get something out to the people because more people have called me lately saying that a representative, I put air quotes around that, from Duke is calling up saying that there's a rebate or reimbursement that's going around, but they need some information. And so I sent stuff out through the email and on Facebook and things like that. So I can't stress any more strongly than what Dan says. Is either contact Dan, contact me, contact Constellation. But be very hesitant when you get something over the phone or in the mail. And if you have any questions, call me right away or call Dan right away.
That's key. If you're not sure, you don't have to guess, just call.
Right.
And you're saying just go ahead and call you at the office. The City of Forest Park is still monitoring all the phone numbers and email addresses, so you can send an email, you can make a phone call, and say, I got this, I don't know. And if they're telling you on the phone you have to decide now, that's a clue right there anyway.
Right.
So if they're saying you can't call back, that's a clue right there. So don't go with that one and call, find out.
So, a couple of things. We have to file all Forest Park's paperwork with the PUCO. So all these companies and scammers see our schedule. Okay, so that's very easy for them to try to pick off what they think is folks that aren't paying a super amount of attention to this and make them think it's the program when it's really not. That's kind of the good and the bad with the state of Ohio regulating this, is that there's a map and a timetable and a playbook for folks like that to take advantage of other people.
And PUCO, the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, regulates all of this. All of this paperwork is public record. But like you said, it also is a clue for anyone else to say, aha, people in Forest Park will be getting a letter soon, so maybe I can trick them. So watching this program is part of being informed and knowing that's coming. So now that we know that obviously the competitors all know that the letter's coming. Let's make sure that the folks in Forest Park see your letter will look in a very specific way, and you will know this is the letter from Forest Park because it will have the Forest Park logo, and it will have the Constellation logo on it. So you will see that right on the letter, and we can take a look at those right now. Now, what week are they going out? Right.
First week in April.
First week in April
Okay.
is when they'll go out.
So we're going to start seeing those in our mailboxes
Right.
in April. You alluded to some people who won't see them. If you're not getting your electricity from Duke, but you're already getting it from another supplier, there's a rule that says you can't send them a letter. So if they want in, they have to wait for theirs to end and then come in, or they can call theirs and say, is there a way to get out without a fee? But they're going to want to check that.
Correct, and they can call us, and it'll take 2 minutes for us to figure out what kind of program you're in, and then we can give you directions on how to either get out, or we just don't want anybody to get caught paying a large termination fee from one of these companies. That's all. So Energy Alliances will give any of the residents the guidance they need to make the correct decision on it.
So the short answer is, if you didn't get a letter and you wanted to get a letter about the aggregation, just call Energy Alliances. And there's reasons why you didn't get the letter. Maybe you're with somebody else. Maybe you didn't even know you were with somebody else, and they can look that up and these kinds of things.
That happens, unfortunately.
So for the rest of us, we will get this letter that has the city logo on it, which is important to know. And what are the components of that letter that we want to make sure that they notice?
On the envelope, or on the top left-hand side of the envelope, the return address, you will see both logos. It'll be right there. You'll have the Constellation logo, and you have the oval City of Forest Park. So you'll know that is our aggregation supplier. And when you open it up, you'll get a notice, a letter, and again, the letter will have Constellation and the city's logo right on the top. So if it's not there, then it's not our aggregation program, and I would question whether or not even to proceed to read it. And so those are the key things that they have to realize right away. Now, in the body of the letter, it explains that there are two different sources of energy. that are generating the electricity. There will be two different rates, one for the renewables and one for the brown energy source, and that the default energy will be the renewables. So if they wanted to stay with the renewables, they don't have to do a thing. They can read the letter, sit back and say, great, I'm going to be using wind energy, I'm going to still have savings from Duke Energy, not a problem, we'll just let it ride. If you want, there is a little bit of savings with brown energy, about, we figure for average household, it's about $1.20 a month for 1,000 kilowatt hours, which isn't very much. So you can see that renewable energies has really dropped in price with all the different things that are going on and the technologies that are being developed. And so if you want that $1.20 or whatever, you just make a phone call. There's contact information of how to do that and switch over to the brown source. That's very easy to do. And then it will also explain if you don't want any part of it, that you really like Duke, you like the way that it feels, or for whatever reason, then there is an email, there's a phone number, and there is a website that you can all go to. And there's also a cutout on the very bottom that you just fill out and send in to opt out. And there's not a problem. So it gives you all the information that you need.
So, and everything's on one sheet.
One sheet.
It's very easy to scan through. There's some more information in there if you really, if you really want to get into the details, you can turn it over. There's terms and conditions. There's frequently asked questions.
Exactly.
And a lot of those are the same questions we've covered. We've covered on a couple programs. Dan, I know you've come to council meetings to address some of these. There were hearings to address some of these. But if you missed those, they're in the envelope too. Yep. So that's all in there. And if you want to be part of it, it's opt-out.
It's an opt-out program. So if you want to be a part of it, you can just read it, say, you know, Forest Park did a good thing, and then recycle the letter.
Absolutely recycle the letter. Not just because we're talking to the environmental program manager, but definitely
Exactly. And then if you want to just switch to the brown energy, you make a phone call. And if you want to opt out, you can make a phone call or cut that little thing off the bottom of it and mail it in.
So it's very easy. There's no extra homework here. It's all in one letter.
Right.
If anyone has any questions, they can't find it in the paper or they didn't hear it in this program, where can they go for information?
We have put it on the website. I've put Energy Alliances Incorporated on our website, and I'm trying to put it on the city's webpage, homepage. I also have Constellation's information website on there. Our phone number's there. I would say start with me. If they have any kind of questions, call me, and then I can kind of direct them. If it's a more of a technical question or opt-out question, or I'm associated with this aggregation program that I didn't really know that much about, what do I do? Then I will definitely send it over to Dan, so Dan can help them out to determine whether they need to get out of it now or wait until it's over, and then all that kind of stuff. But I would say start with me, and then I will we'll figure out what needs to be done.
And Dan, if they don't get a letter, they just need to call you.
Yeah, that'll do it. Because
they might get a letter because they're already in another. They might not get a letter because they're already in another program, or they might not get a letter because it got lost. You don't kind of want to assume. So if you want to be in the program and you're not sure, just call.
All you have to do is have your current electric bill in front of you, give me a call, and I can answer your questions pretty rapidly. And don't ever give anybody your account number.
That's
ever.
key.
Not even you.
I don't need her account number.
If you are on the phone with someone that wants your account number, they can change you without your permission because they'll take that account number as permission.
Correct.
So that's key. I know we've talked about that on another program, and I don't think we can say it enough because we feel like it's an easy thing to give people. But you're going to wind up in another energy program that you didn't mean to.
Right.
And then you're going to be stuck if that has a cancellation fee. Is there anything else you want to make sure that Forest Park residents know about this before we wrap up?
Yeah, there's a couple things. First of all, I'll say it again, don't give your account number to anybody. That's really, really important. Second thing is know your rights. There are rights to rescind these contracts in Ohio, and we can go over those with you. If you get hooked into one of these other programs, there are ways you can dispute with the utility that we'll advise you to do if you get hooked in with one of these other programs. And just make sure you just don't pay attention to social media with regard to this stuff, because people will get on and say a lot of different things that are frankly not true. Just give us a call and we'll help you, direct you through the program.
Excellent. How about you, Ray?
Right. I would again stress that look for our logo and Constellation's logo. If you don't see it on the mailings, then it's not ours, because they're like Dan said, they're out there and they're very active right now, the people who wants to sign you up. So look for our logos. The second thing I would like to say is that these there are two energy sources. You might get a little confused about what's going on. There is a default, which is the renewables. This is kind of a sum up, and there's just a very little change in the rates. But if you do want that change, if you do want that little bit of savings left, that's fine. All you have to do is make a call, and you can be switched over to that. And if you don't want to participate, which is fine as well, we don't want to make you do anything, then you can opt out and there's no cost. And if you decide that you want to opt in, you can opt in and there's no cost. So I think this is a program that is designed. There were two things that we wanted to do when we started this program. One, we wanted to get lower rates, and we've achieved that. Okay. The other is to give people an option to use either the renewables or the more brown traditional coals and natural gas, and we've done that. So I think we've met our goals. Now we're giving it to the people to decide what they want to do.
Okay, so shortest recap ever. There's a letter coming if you live in Forest Park. It's from the city of Forest Park. It's not from anybody else. So you'll see that logo. The letter invites you to be part of the Forest Park Electric Aggregation Program, which is essentially a group buy rate for your electric. You don't have to do it. If you want to do it, do nothing. If you don't want to do it, or if you didn't get a letter and you want to do it and you're not sure you're in or anything like that, then just call Energy Alliances or call Wright at the Forest Park Environmental Programming Office and find out more, find out what to do next. And that's pretty much everything. There's all kinds of more details you can look into, but that pretty much covers it. I want to thank you so much for coming in today to help us explain all the details of this program.
Thanks for having us.
And I want to thank you in Forest Park, because you're watching this program. That means you want to be informed and understand and know what's going on. And I look forward to seeing you on more Waycross programming.